thank you for your love and thank you for the beautiful time today. And thank you for the opportunity to be here. We're asking that you come in our heart and our mind and you glorify yourself as you are guiding us through this presentation or discussion or understanding. Help us to use the information to improve our own personal life and improve the conditions of our communities as well. May you be glorified in everything. I pray this in your name. Amen. Okay, thank you. So, yesterday I spent some time reviewing my notes. So, it's I'm taking all of this from my teaching notes, and those are content I'm delivering in the full semester to students. Some of the things I'm doing here today, I'm looking at the ladies in the room here today and say maybe they have been doing that. Usually ladies are, most of the time, better than men are doing financial planning, managing the finances. By the way, the word economy comes from that practice. Okay? And I was reviewing my notes with Brianne. And she reminded me to do the exact same thing I do in my classes. So if you're taking a finance class, a personal finance class, the first thing I want you to do is to set up your goals. And students, you start from there. Investment, the same thing. What are your short-term goals? What are your long-term goals? And I did for the content around that, and then students built real information around real goals and objectives. So that you can have in hand, or you briefly work with that. I think we have a lot of pens here. If you don't have any on your table.
They're coming.
They're coming?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. All right, so I should wait for Amara to come so that you can. Okay?
That's not there.
And we're going to discuss that, and you can take that and work with it in your communities. Do you have one? Yes, you do?
No.
Yes. Is that the one? Yes, right. Something?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, good. Perfect. So, first thing in finance, or talking finance, one key information is that we receive, I don't know for you, but my income streams are limited. I don't know if anyone here has unlimited income. So if we have unlimited income, we can spend it as if there were no tomorrow. Okay? But if income stream is limited, just like me, because my main income stream is a paycheck, so we're living on paycheck to paycheck, then we need to plan. Even those folks who are having, quote unquote, there's no one actually with unlimited stream of cash, so we need to plan. So therefore, that's why my first slide here is calling for the establishment of your smart financial goals. What are your financial goals in the short term and the long term? And this we discuss medium term, but medium term is real. We're talking about horizon of 2-3 years, but it's 2-3 years by the time being with speed of change in information environment and our life conditions is already long term. So we need to build essentially 2 key categories of goals and to manage our finances, short term and long term. So when the points are here, I will come back to that. It's only the time I'm going to continue the discussion. And stop me at any time for comments and for any question you may have. So the first thing we need to have a personal cash flow statement. In a different content, in a different course, different class, I discussed this with students for businesses. Yesterday, I briefly alluded to that, saying that there is a legal obligation, for example, for companies in Canada to disclose information to shareholders. And what they're sending you are essentially 4 types of statements. They're sending you their income statement so that you can analyze it, what they are doing. Okay, we are sending you what is called the balance sheet, that is showing you the financial position of the business, and you have a financial position as well. You should have an income statement as well. And your income statement is a statement of inflows, not inflows, yes, revenue and expenses if you want. But your cash flow will show what is called inflows and outflows. You have inflows of cash and outflows. I remember in a discussion with somebody, I have so many stories, I have to stick to my slides, sure. But somebody was counting as inflows credit card balance, not balance, but a credit card line of a credit card, the line of credit. Was that inflow or outflow or what do you think? What's that?
Outflow.
Yeah, but does it show out? If you have a line of credit, you receive a letter from RBC saying I establish a visa for you, $10,000. Where do you put that?
The debt, the garbage, the debt.
The garbage. The debt. Yeah. So this $10,000, it doesn't belong to you actually. It's not your money. It's there. If you have financial constraints, you can tap into it. But as well as you tap into it, then you're in debt, and you need to pay it. Okay. In our accounting, we put that in liabilities, that margin of credit. Okay. So you need to have a personal cash flow statement. That is a statement that measures a person's income and expenses, inflows and outflows. That is the first step in budgeting. I'm going to do something else. You need a personal budget as well. Okay. What do you have to do? Some people do not do that, maybe because they are so good at memorizing or remembering every single detail. But it's wise to take some time to write it down. You record your income. Your income will come really, that will flow from your salary, any interest income. Nowadays, can you tell me where you get some interest income? Investing. What's that? Investment. Okay. Investment yield some interest income or some dividends, but you have some flows, some dividends, some capital gains. We were talking yesterday about capital gain. When I purchase a share of common stock, we target 2 streams of income from that. We want current income. Okay, current income is a dividend we receive, and we want the stock to appreciate. Okay, if I purchase a share of common share from WestJet for $15, I expect it to increase to 25. So 25 minus 15, I have a $10 capital gain, and Brianna was talking yesterday afternoon about the tax implication of that $10, how much of it you're going to pay tax on. So you record your income, record your expenses, large expenses, small expenses, need to be recorded. It's so easy nowadays. On your computer, you open just an Excel spreadsheet and you can do that. It's so very easy. You put it in virtual life. And what we have in the main expenses, we have rent. If you are paying mortgage, okay, that is your rent. Living expenses, credit card payments. If you use your credit card, it's so hard in Canada not to use it. So you have to record that how much you pay. And then after that, your income minus your expenses will give you what? Your net cash flow. You need to know that. Okay. And what you need to do with your net cash flow was addressed yesterday, but we can come back to that. Okay. We should have some net. Down here, yeah, I'm looking around. She's not here. Okay, it's okay. Okay, cash flow statement. We put an example here. somebody called Brian Kennedy. So, example, if you have a disposable income, if the income you take home after taxes. I'm working for WestJet. They were paying me, say, $5,000 a month, and that all taxes deducted, I end up with $3,000 at best. I think it's a fair assessment.
Yes.
So my $3,000 is my disposable income. It's what I'm taking home. Okay, so for that person here, disposable income after tax would be $2,260, and any other source of income for that person, there is no interest. Don't forget that a good investor is somebody who you try all the time your best to earn interest, not to pay interest. Keep that in the back of our thinking as well. Yes. You try your best to earn it, not to have to pay it. So credit card must be managed in a way that you don't pay interest. And dividends for that person is zero. So if you invested in some common stock, which we should be doing, and as I'm discussing that, it was a nice experience I had just, and I alluded to that yesterday, just that summer. There is somebody who came to my class, I don't know if you remember that, I was sharing with you. And I was teaching that, and continued ed course. She said, my husband is a farmer. He doesn't touch anything financial in the household. Everything is me, everything financial. But we did some investment. I'm receiving those statements. Nobody understands that in the house. Can you create some part of the course to help me understand that? That is second year actually. I have that second person. I said, yeah, that's my pleasure. Yes.
Dr. Rochelle, the term cash flow statement is kind of confusing. What is this? What is another word that we could call it?
Is it like a budget?
No, a cash flow statement is a kind of, to put it in simple terms, it's kind of list you have in two columns, assuming that, let's imagine in two columns. Yeah, in one column you post what is coming in, cash that is coming in, like your salary, your dividend, your interest, everything. Okay? And in the other column you put all your outflows. Then you need to pay. You need to write a check to pay your rent. You write a check. Your credit card, you don't necessarily have to put it there if you don't carry a balance. So the cash flow is a kind of listing of cash that is coming in and cash that is going out.
So is it like assets and liabilities? Is that what you're saying? Or
No, it's slightly different.
Okay.
Not slightly, it's significantly different.
Okay. So it's liquid. It's money that you have coming in,
Yes.
and then your expenses.
Yes. What we're discussing here is finance. Finance has this principle of, for example, if I sell you this computer, I'm running a business, you purchase this computer from me, and most of businesses they're selling a huge part of their merchandise on credit. Until you pay me for the computer, if I sell on credit, you pay in 1 month. For finance, it's not, I cannot put it as money that is coming in. It's not in yet. It's different from accounting.
Okay.
Accounting would say, okay, if you purchase this computer from me for $300, from accounting point of view, you put income, $300. From finance point of view, you put $0.
If you think of it like your bank account, this is the cash coming into the bank account, this is the cash going out the bank.
That's right.
Oh.
That's what the cash flow is. Until I receive the cash, I don't count it. It's eggs in the bush. It's bird in the bush. Yes. But I don't finance cash flow. Then the cash flow statement doesn't count any bird in the bush. Even if you are going to receive it, you're sure, I know you are going to pay me, but in principle, I don't put it as though the money is in. So the cash flow is where you count money that is in and money that is going out. Thank you so much for the question. Is that clear enough? Yeah. And that is it. By the way, you have to please stop me because that time I let go and speaking the technical jargon. So if you see that happen, don't feel we're in family here. Just stop me to clarify, please. Okay, so that is the statement of cash flows. For example, if that lady invested in buying bonds from Bell Canada, and Bell Canada is paying interest every quarter, I know at the end of the quarter I'm going to receive interest. Until I receive the check, I cannot put it as the money is in. The same way for my salary. I know my employer is going to pay me at the end of the month. But if I'm building my cash flow statement now, I'm not going to put it because it's not in yet. That's the thing what we call cash flow. So the cash flow is the cash that is coming in, we call that inflows, and cash that is going out. Okay? So somebody comes to me and say, all right, I need $20, that is an outflow. It goes out. So that's the system. Okay. And then after that, when we're building your income and your cash flow statement, you build it in this fashion with these things. And then the example we have here, for that person, we have rent and the expenses. Don't forget that in one column, we put inflows, that is cash that is coming in, we call that cash that is flowing in, we call that inflows. And cash that is going out, we call that outflow. So outflow is really short word for that is expenses. And most of us are paying rent, or some of us. Your mortgage would fall into that category as well. Into rent, you are paying cable TV, paying electricity and water, telephone, groceries, disability and insurance, clothing, car expenses, insurance, maintenance, and gas, recreation, $600 for that person, total expenses, $1930, and don't forget that in the previous slide, let me put it back quickly. We see total inflow of $2,260 for that person in the planning process, and total expenses $1930, and total inflow minus expenses, that is, you have a plus $330. Let me give you some old rules in your finances. One of the old rules is that right here, ideally, rent should not exceed 25% of your total income. Okay? If it does, we need to start thinking about it.
Is that the same with mortgage as well?
Yes. We need to
So
start.
this total shouldn't exceed more than 25%.
No, I'm commenting on each line here. The rent, you see the rent line
Oh, yeah.
should not exceed your total income by more than 25%. So I'm putting some tough planning rules on you now.
Are you talking 25% of income monthly because mortgage or rent comes out monthly, right?
Yes.
So that
If
you don't confuse it by an income because you may receive it bi-weekly, per se.
But it depends. If you are building your budget on a bi-weekly basis, you would consider that. But if you are building, I would recommend that it's built monthly, on a monthly basis.
Right.
Yeah, even if you pay bi-weekly.
Right.
So you plan on a monthly basis.
If
It's
you're
easy.
doing bi-weekly, you would have to half that, right?
Yes, you have to. Yeah, if it is bi-weekly, then you may have to cut that in half or double, depends.
Right.
Yes. And let me ask you a quick question here, a couple of questions. If you were to build that budget, we have only 330 net cash flow. Would that be sufficient?
Sufficient for,
There are unforeseen circumstances, all sort of thing like that. Their illness, sudden illness, some.
that's how long they've been saving for a critical nest egg, right?
That's right.
So if you're just building it today, that's not enough at all.
That's right.
If you're building it for 5 years, it might not enough.
Okay. Assuming that is today, and you say that's not enough. So what are some of the actions you may consider taking now based on that? If you say 330, it's not enough anymore. So what should you do?
Where's your savings line?
Excuse me?
Like you didn't put anything into a savings piece.
Yeah, in the previous slide I said this is your total income.
Oh, okay.
Okay? You have a list, we have to column, we don't show them in two, but you have total income, we call that inflow, money that is coming in, that is in, and you have money that is going out here, and you see total going out, we call that outflows, expenses, 1,930, coming in 2,260.
But on your inflows, you go back to the slide previous, it still doesn't show what I put into a savings account. Like shouldn't I take a percentage of that?
No, I see,
Yeah,
you're one step ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and
Yeah.
if you want to go back and revisit everything that is there already, so what you do is that what is there already, you leave it where it is, and we address it in a different way. Yesterday we showed how you invested, where you put it. So every month you are trying to get something out of it. If your income is coming monthly, so you're planning to see how much cash flow you can generate on a monthly basis to go and be added to the pool of what we have already. So your question is so important. Somebody called me from Ottawa, and somebody in the family here, and then asking me questions about saving. I said, there's some money you have, you put it somewhere, you just ignore it, you just don't have it. You just don't have that money. You touch that money only in case of extreme, emergency kind of thing. You just but you are dealing with current expenses and current income and how you manage that systematically. Okay. Excellent question, though. So what you do if you're saying that is not sufficient, give me one of the things you should do. So right. You are so right.
Recreation.
That's right. If you say it's not enough, then you go back, you revisit some expenses. You say, do I really need that? Okay. Do I really need an extra? Anyone? Yes.
One thing that I noticed is that in there is no charitable donations, like for tithing.
Oh yeah, that's come. That doesn't come from the church environment. It's from the secular environment. They don't put that donation.
Oh, I see. Okay. I see.
Yeah, but you're right. Yeah.
The net flow of 330 though, depending if we're doing it today, like you said, right? So we don't have a nest egg, and you're saying we need to cut back on some of the things to increase our, let's say, savings per se.
Yeah.
But the other way of doing this would be is we can recommend them to, even $100 a month in, let's say, TFSA or something like that, which is accessible, it's not locked.
Okay.
Investment over time, over 6 months, you would have enough of a nest egg to fall back if you had to.
Yes.
I'm not saying, $600 for recreation and then rent is $600. I want to move there, but seems like $600 for recreation is quite over the top. So
That's
they have something to cut into.
Yeah.
But that's another way of going is recommending, because getting the discipline of putting something monthly into an account, right?
Yeah.
Of savings, to build that savings portfolio as well.
Yeah. You are totally right. So you revisit every single one of your expense line here. Rent, if it is mortgage, you have no choice. You have to pay it. You cannot reduce it. and the landlord will not wait saying that, oh, I have to cut my budget, but that is, you have to. Electricity, water, you have to. Telephone, it depends. $60 telephone nowadays is very common. It's very low. I would say, okay, that's groceries. Okay. If it is, let's say bi-weekly, for example, as you said, you may want to. Okay. Do I decide on insurance? You may not have a choice. Clothing. Do I need to purchase some piece of clothing every month? Yeah, it fits. You're telling me the story that I teach my kids. I'm teaching my students. I say, guys, when you're married, be aware that women are not like men. Okay? Women will purchase this shirt, we wear it until it's worn out. Women are not like that. Okay? Be aware of that. Okay? No tension, okay? And planning, financial planning. Car expenses, maintenance and gas. Recreation, $600. Well, you may put a question mark here. Do I need $600 this month for recreation? You may say that it's just 1 month. It's a summer we're going somewhere. Maybe true, but in a regular month, do we need to budget this much? Or, you can put a question mark depending on your circumstances. Okay, maybe okay to do that. Then you have that net cash flow of $330. What do you do with the net cash flow? You're thinking about TFSA, but don't forget that TFSA money must be invested. Something I discussed with some colleagues at times, I see that people having RSPs, they are just content to have RSPs. Okay, you have to actively manage your RSPs. Don't forget that. I manage that very actively, not just actively, but very aggressively, I would say, me. Okay, I would suggest that you manage it. You're not sitting there. If you're sitting, you don't financial institution are going to keep it there. Some GIC kind of thing like that, and you don't pay attention to information, and you don't go and sit down with them. I want this product, that product. But I'm telling you, every time I go sit down with my RSP managers, it's like I'm teaching a finance course again. Most of the people are there. I'm not like nothing against them. They're all good people. I like them. What is happening to them? So most of the people there, you're just selling them, but they don't know the products in the market I could commit that money into. So they don't know that. Before I go, I do my homework. I just survey the market. I know the product. I go sit down and explain this is what I want. Very often, very nice person, they don't know. Say, okay, what do you ask our supervisor? Okay, ask your supervisor and call me. Okay. Very nice. I'm very nice with them because they're trying their best. They're doing what they know. But I have to lay out what I want for myself. So the knowledge and investment is very important. Okay. All right. Some factors that affect your cash flows, what I'm saying here, budgeting tightly, is not a general rule for everybody. You must do that. It depends on certain factors. The size of your family, because depending on your family, your expenses for this kid here, for this person here, the husband, wife, etc. That depends. And it depends on age as well. Some ages, some period of life, you face more expenses, and some it's less, and personal consumption behavior. Some people spend all of their income and more, while others, they are big savers. Again, you may have to pay attention to what's going on in the US economy, for example. I saw so many cases. I think the last time I watched some financial advisors live on a program that was on Oprah, and I haven't watched Oprah since 2007, so I don't know what's going on there since. But I remember a case I saw a man around 40, and with his wife and 2 kids, and the kids do not want food at home. so they need to feed them in restaurant all the time. They have 2 cars that are financed. And the whole family, because of the kids, they have to eat in the restaurant, they pay cars, mortgage, all sort of things like that. So which is that there is some accumulation of, things to cut from. So it depends. And so when you have a cash flow statement, the next step is to build a budget. The budget is a cash flow statement that is based on forecasting. Now, in a cash flow, you don't put forecasting, things that are not in yet, but a budget you put. Okay, that is the difference between the two. So, income, I can say, okay, today is the 19th of the month. At the end of the month, I'm going to receive, I know I'm going to receive a letter from my company. I'm going to receive dividends. I'm going to recover interests. I can put that in my budget, but I cannot put it on my cash flow statement today. That's the difference. Little tricky things. And the budgets are usually for anticipating either cash surpluses or cash deficiencies. So cash surpluses may be used to build an emergency fund, invest in additional assets. That's where my sister was talking about. The pool of investment, what you have. How do you call saving account? Where do you put them? Is that an investment? That's that good question. No. Why?
Today,
No, interesting.
Huh?
because they only pay like what 0.5%, and it's like calculated. So you basically get what 0.1%.
That's right.
And your inflation is at 8%, so
That's right.
basically giving money to the bank to do whatever they want to do with it.
Thank you. Okay. So I was sitting on the board of a charity once. That was part of my volunteer work. And they got a chunk of money, and they were sitting it at the bank. You know how much they're receiving on that? 0.75% a year. 0.75% a year on the money. And when I sit on that board, I say, why do you see that? That it was a significant chunk of money. I'm not going to tell you how much, but that was a significant chunk. Why do you sit your money there? Oh, because our organization, they have this thing, we have to do business with this institution because we're an organization. I said, no, you don't do that. No. Yes, but it's organizational money. We don't want to take risks. It's true, but there are some risk-free assets, risk-free, kind of. I explained the risk-free concept yesterday, but I can repeat it again. So you're not doing, you cannot see that money there doing nothing, commonly. No. And interestingly enough, that was a night done, and we walked into the financial institution, and we said we want to do some kind of investment with them. You would be surprised. Even the employees of the financial institution, they couldn't help us with putting in some financial products. So they have to call the supervisors. They're thinking, right here, and after that, Toronto. So yeah, we want. And we had to insist until they move the money to something that generated something for the organization. If you don't say anything, they sit it there. Usually you give them money to go and make money and you get nothing. It's true for us individually. So if we open a saving account and you sit our money, or this is my saving account. If you know my example, I manage for it in my checking account every month to be zero. I don't have a saving account. No, I have TFSA, but all committed. Though that's me. I must tell you, I like playing around with risk, and it pays off. Okay. I don't see money in saving account. So okay. And anyway, so yes.
You said that. I'm just wondering because most banks want you to keep a certain amount in your account in order not to charge you fees.
Yeah, but they count everything.
But as soon as it drops under a certain amount.
Yeah.
They count that against you and charge you a fee, and then not. You said if you're having it at zero, that means those fees would apply.
No, they don't, because I save through, I invest through them, part of it through them. I don't take it out. I purchase the product through them. So they see the entire, they add up everything you have with them. And that. If they don't do it, you have to bargain. If you don't bargain, they keep doing that.
Oh, I know, they're looking to charge you everywhere.
That's right.
That's why I'm wondering.
You always have to bargain and insist, this is what I want. For me, personally, everything I have, investment, they add up. I know they just say, no, you don't pay fees. So. Comments?
I have one.
Huh?
If you have a smaller banking portfolio and don't have a lot of assets at the bank, keeping a minimal balance in your bank account is the way to avoid fees. That is the difference.
Yeah.
But it's different for each profile. It's also different for the kind of banking that you do. For example, if you're somebody who writes a lot of checks and you need checks on your checking account, you're probably going to have to either hold a higher balance in there or pay a fee to use those checks, because everything is in the world of e-transfer. So it's really personal, and that's why banks have different kinds of accounts and different banks have different models for that. So when you do have quite a large portfolio, there is flexibility in there to kind of negotiate. But when you're still in that beginning phase and you have to have a smaller bank account, holding that minimal balance is the best way to avoid the fee.
That's right. But you need to bargain in any case, yeah. So some notes, creating a budget. Now can I give you a 5 minutes? You don't have to show me what you write down. You have it, that sheet here. Distributed for you. Yeah. Yes. I would like you to take a couple of minutes to write down your short-term financial goals and your long-term financial. Short-term is anywhere between 1 month to 12 months, a year. Anything a year or less is short-term. What are your goals? Anything about that is long-term. I tend to consider even 2 years as long-term, but you have medium here. Any question about that? And the goal must be realistic. If I set my goal and say I want in 5 years to have the same level of wealth as Warren Buffett, it's not realistic. I can't. That would take a miracle. Right? Do you need any other clues?
Does everybody have a sheet?
Huh? Do you all have that sheet? Right? Just write it for yourself. Your goal, short term. That's realistic. That's what it means. A goal is that I want to increase my income by 20%. If I'm working somewhere I don't expect a raise or 20% raise, then I need to find out that job. Your mom goal is to purchase a Ferrari next year? No? Okay, so I would allow you to continue that on your own. So the sheet is yours. Continue on that. And let us cover some more content, share some more information here. You cannot plan until you have goals. Forget that. And let me put it differently. You can plan better when you have goals, realistic goals. That will help you a lot. You set goals. And while you're creating your budget, there's some other things you'll remember. You have to anticipate your cash shortages because you're forecasting things in that budget. There's a component of what you anticipate to come unless the cash flow statement, which is right away, cash in and out. Budget, you anticipate things. You need to assess the accuracy of your budget. Is it accurate or not? Budget is a tool that must be accurate. You can forecast the net cash flows over several months. An annual budget would be a good way to go. And you break it down into monthly afterward. And you can go bi-weekly if you want to. If you're paying bills on a bi-weekly basis. And you create your budget annually by extending your budget out for longer periods. Longer periods is a little bit difficult due to the changing, the dynamic of the environment. And you improve your budget based on the review to see if your budget reflects reality. So the budget is not set in stone, you don't adjust it, you need to adjust it. The thing is, you have an annual budget, and it's based on your goal. And you bring the annual budget on a monthly basis or bi-weekly basis, if need be. Couple of things here on ethics. Don't become overly dependent on others. I will not go into the stories, but I can tell you I have a lot of stories, real stuff behind this line here. Maybe you have. Reliance on others over a long time periods can create tension and ultimately destroy relationship. Just a quick statistic. 2015, you remember what happened in the economy of Alberta? All of a sudden, the crude was at around $100, and it went down. And people working in the oil field, they started losing their job, and etc., and stress in the families. And you know what statistic increased in the meantime as a response to that? Do you remember? Divorce rate. It's in Alberta. Yeah. Were you paying attention to that or not? No. They're very good statistics. Yeah, economic conditions are going down, people are losing their jobs, and as a result of that, divorce rate is going up. Okay, and I have stories, so we don't touch those. I know we're very close. As much as possible, become self-reliant, create a budget, and stay within it. Talking about not just individual, but family, staying within it, build and maintain an emergency fund somewhere. And Brianna was coming in yesterday, if I'm wrong on that, to tell me. And put your emergency funds in TFSA. Why TFSA? Because it is tax-free. And the TFSA doesn't need to sit there. You invest it in short-term assets, very liquid asset. You were talking about liquidity yesterday, I remember that. So what kind of some liquid asset? Assuming that I have $50,000. So we don't have that much, but we may have it. TFSA. I can $50,000. I can do a lot with that. I can invest it in a lot of things. I can reserve a portion of it, let's say $5,000 or so. I say, okay, I want this portion to go to short-term assets like treasury bills we talked about yesterday, because I can transfer that to liquid like that. I can transfer it to cash, just an email, phone call to your financial institution to convert it into cash. So it's very liquid portion of you anticipate for that. So, very liquid, but do not see a lot of money in TFSA because it's not a single value. It's not generating in itself any income. It will generate something when you invest it. So consider that in your budget as well. Any question?
Sorry, can you repeat that last statement? Don't put what in here?
Don't leave the money in TFSA. Just I have a TFSA, and you
Or just leave it at that?
leave it at that.
Oh, I see.
If you leave it at just TFSA, it's not good enough. You need to invest it. And while you're investing it, the portion of it you put in a very liquid asset. We talked about yesterday. Very liquid. Very liquid means you can transform that into cash very quickly. And a portion of, depending on how much you have there, assuming somebody has $10,000 at TFSA, okay, you may say, okay, we decide in a family or individually that TFSA, I'm going to put $5,000 in stocks and bonds, and $5,000 I'm going to invest it in something that can be converted into cash very quickly. If I have an emergency, I could just walk into the bank and convert it back into cash and use it. Okay. Any questions? Other questions? Comments?
Sorry, just one more question.
Yes.
Because, so these classes that we have today in the morning, are they not repeating in the afternoon? Because it sounds like there was stuff discussed yesterday that wasn't discussed in the morning.
Yeah, we added a little bit on it,
Okay.
which we keep giving you bonuses. Yeah. For example, I prepared for this lesson this morning, 18 slides. Do you know where I am now? I'm at 10. So when you come this afternoon, she is a very fast talker. She's going to present this afternoon. She talks faster than me, and she would give you more. So as I'm presenting, I'm trying my best to connect the stories to what I believe your experience is, that she's going to do that, but she's going to say, okay, we saw this portion this morning, and we go. But it's the same lesson though.
Dr. Michelle is a professor and has excellent educational experience. I have a little bit more banking experience, so my stories will cater that way.
Yeah. It's a bonus.
Exactly.
Just out of curiosity, when you put money into your tax-free savings account, at what dollar factor do you recommend start looking at not letting it sit there? Like, is it, do I have $5,000 there, $2,000, $10,000, $20,000? Like, is there like a scope of practice that say, okay, you have X number roughly here, now start looking at doing something with it? Because some of us might have $1,000 in there, some might only have $500.
Yes.
So, like, where do you look at
Yes.
when you start moving?
I would see there the equivalent of half of my disposable income.
But you can invest
I don't
in
touch.
her.
That's me.
She doesn't need to wait to invest. If
Yeah.
you put $100 in there and you decide that $100 you want to buy a mutual fund or a GIC, sometimes GICs have a minimum on them, and different types of investments will have a minimum on them. But when you go to put that in there, you can ask them what options are available for me to invest just this first amount of money.
Perfect.
You don't need to wait to acquire like $10,000 before you do something with it in a TFSA. The way it's designed, you can do something right away.
What I find really weird, and I don't know about anyone else, but it's like we have banks. We have high school students who are working in our banks who have no education, and we're like going to them looking for advice. So is there a place outside of your bank to get advice from? Does that make sense? I look at our bank right now, and every one of them, my husband has taught, and not long ago. So not a 4-year degree, or not a doctorate or whatever. So I find it hard to go and say to Joy, who graduated in 2021, where should I invest my money? So,
That is
And the senior guy, right? He wasn't able to walk us through RESPs, for example, right? Because it's
You have to remember, bank employees are employees as well.
Yeah.
So, for example, when I worked in banking, I was one of the only people there with a 4-year degree. Comparably, however, because of how it's set up for them to maintain and recruit employees, they had to be doing continuing education through the bank. So they made me obtain my mutual funds license. They wanted me to obtain a retirement planning certificate. For me, I was like, oh, I did a degree. It's a little bit extra. But for somebody who's coming in and they're like any other trade, kind of grandfathering them into the position, those opportunities for education is their response to that. By no means is it equivalent, but they're trying to equip them with the minimal amount of tools so that they can help you. But you're right. Honestly, there's nobody who's going to care about your money the way that you do,
That's right.
which is why it's important for you to take time and educate yourself.
Well, you know, one of the easiest way of doing this as a consumer, if you're interested in that, look where you spend your money. So if it's Walmart, and maybe it's a good thing to look at what the Walmart stock is at. Maybe you can invest into Walmart stock. Is it Superstore? Is it, I don't know, if you drive a Tesla, if you have a particular, but one of the main things that I learned, there's a company that never loses money. And that's a bank.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
So you can invest in a bank. You're investing in a bank, you will never lose money. So you can look at that. If all other options are gone, that's it.
And you can hold those stocks in your tubes.
Right.
Yeah, that's so. Yeah, that's a
Maybe
reality.
a simple question, but she's saying dealing with maybe a grade 9 level or high school level. Well, don't the financial planners have more than that? Can you go and spend time with a financial planner?
I think
Generally speaking, in order to have the qualifications to work there, so a tiller is just a part-time job, right? So the people at the front who handle your cash, they usually are high school students. And then if they're quite, doing quite well in banking and they see a future there in an effort to maintain employees, they may promote them to a financial or junior financial advisor, not a full-on financial advisor. And in that case, they may be the person in the office. Even though they don't have that extra education, they're probably in the process of completing those other courses like I mentioned. So it's something you can do if you go to the bank and you feel that the person you're talking to is not competent, you can ask them to bring in their manager into that meeting.
okay, that's my experience. I've never been there without the manager being there, and my experience, even the manager
Yeah.
at times cannot understand my language. Okay. So they need to go and call over either Toronto or Edmonton or somewhere to find me what I want, but I always insist.
So, Plan A is being educated enough ourselves that we can go in there and navigate that for ourselves.
That's right.
But if that isn't where we're at, is there any, is an independent financial planner, whatever, that you pay, is there any benefit to that over the bank people? Because the bank people, they have their products. You can totally tell that they're selling their mutual funds or that sort of stuff. So is there any benefit to that or not really?
I would say there's a threshold before you reach it. If you have quite a small portfolio, the fees that you're going to pay for that financial advisor, you're probably not gaining as much as you could. Unless you have a complicated matter that you're looking to discuss, or you have a larger portfolio and you're really looking for that additional support. But even with an independent financial advisor, it's still true nobody cares about your money as much as you do. And when you get into those financial advisors, the wealth advisors is what we call them, that are providing personalized advice and aren't necessarily attached to a bank, they're looking to make some kind of commission off of your investments. They need to make their money too. So at the end of the day, it's really
They're sellers. They're sellers.
Yeah.
So there's,
Okay.
just to add to that, you can look, there's two different types of financial advisors. There's ones that are connected to financial companies, and there's the ones that are truly independent, and they make their money specifically charging you a fee. So let's say $2,000, we go through your finances, we make your budget, forecast, whatever, and plan for whatever you want to do. And they will do recommendation of investments. So let's say that $2,000, you can consider that, even though it's an expense, you can consider it as an investment to figure out what is the best way for you to move. And for that same fee, not charging any extra, not earning commission, they also then follow you for next year. So if you have any questions, you can ask them, okay, well, this is not doing really good. Why is it not doing good? Or should I move? Or what should I do? So they give you sort of a little bit of an education. But it is an expense. You're paying $2,000 or whatever the fee is for a year, right? So that's, again, something, if you totally don't have any financial background and you need a quick sort of a push in, and they'll make a plan with you and everything else, they'll go through all the finances, so you need to be ready to disclose all that information as well, right? So it's just a matter of comfort. But they can build and suggest certain investments and whatnot.
Yeah, but it depends on how much you're investing and where you are at financially.
Well, it depends on the goal.
Well, you have to feel like you're gonna at least make that 2,000 back, right?
And
For it
that's
to
exactly-
be worth your while.
So that's exactly what you want to sit down with them and say, listen, that's great, but I want that $2,000. I want to see that return within a year, right? So it's not a loss,
Yeah.
so that I'm even. And so if they're not good at it, they won't accept the challenge. If they're good at it, then they'll say, no problem, let's sit down, let's do this, right? And you don't have to pay $2,000 in one shot. You can pay it, monthly kind of thing. But it's a really good point, is you want to make sure you earn that money back. And you want to make sure you get the education, because there's a lot of terms and things that nobody teaches anybody, and nobody teaches our kids either. I mean, we teach them all these courses that are unnecessary in universities and high schools, but we don't teach them basic monetary skills. So if you're educated, then you can transfer that to your kids and whatnot. But, I mean, just looking at this presentation, you can see all these technical terms that most people never use in their daily conversations, right?
One red flag, though, in what you are saying, if you are sitting with somebody and you say that, well, my $2,000, I'm staying in your example, that will show that you give me a return that will make up for that. And he said to you, no, don't worry. Whatever happens, you can put that in your income tax.
Oh, no.
That's a red flag.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Okay. For me, it's a red flag. Okay. For others, maybe I'm not comfortable with that. Yeah. And tomorrow, Brianne is going to discuss a specific product called mutual funds. I don't want to anticipate anything. And she's going to present the nice side of it and some of the pitfalls as well. And one of the pitfalls in that is going to speak to the fees, the fee structure. And I don't want to anticipate that, but plan to be with us tomorrow. We're going to have a lot of this. Mutual fund can be a very nice product, but I see a lot of people who are very disappointed. What you said is so right. We lack this financial literacy. It's what we're trying to do here. We believe that is useful. One session, we're trying to summarize a lot of information. We're compacting them to share with you, but we're trying to find the best venue to increase that, and that would be very, very, very good for you. And you're talking about high schoolers in the banks and kind of thing. I remember when the Scotia Bank recruited Brianne, the manager was telling me in a meeting, you were not part of the meeting, and he was telling me, Mr. Porter, he was telling me, I'm happy with her. You're giving me more than what I'm expecting, which is what they used to have, not a full 4-year graduate and business with financial knowledge, just like her. But high school, people from high school, they give you a training and a lot of it. By the way, this is not my numbers, and I'm not trying to send any to say anything negative about the industry. It's not my purpose. But about 80 to 89% of people selling new products in the banks, they don't know what they are doing. you will see it. I see it every time I'm going to renew my stuff. Every time. At time I sit down here, let me give you a story. Maybe I can close on that. Other slides we will cover this afternoon. If that is very useful. I went to my financial institution to review my portfolio.
Could you talk in the microphone, please?
Oh, people were telling me I have soft voice. I thought I was loud. I mean, and I went to my financial institution to review my portfolio. The advisor could not give me what I want. The supervisor came in, we discussed, could not give me. Oh, we have somebody from Prudential who was sitting there, and we're going to meet that person. We had an appointment. A long story. I'm making it very short. We made an appointment. I sat down with the person coming up and explaining everything. This is how much over the last 5 years of our portfolio we have been able to return 12% or so around that. And if you invest with us, we're going to give you 7% right on with the potential to earn 21%. And he gave me a very rosy picture of how much money I'm going to make, but I was not impressed. Okay? Why do you think? Because of basic principle in finance. Risk and return go hand in hand. If you show me how I'm going to make a lot of money, what is the risk associated with that? And I sat down very simple, carefully. He didn't know the level of information I have. He didn't know me. And then after that I said, what is the risk associated with this level of return? Oh, I forget my portfolio, Richard around, I forget that, I would have shown you. I said, no, okay, that's a red flag for me. So you are selling me a product, you don't know the risk associated with that, and you forget something at home to tell me? It's not good enough to say, okay, thank you. And that was the end of the conversation. But they were very good advisors as well. They are in minority, but they're good, very good people who can advise you appropriately. But be aware that financial information costs a lot. They will charge you, it costs a lot. Good financial advisors, but they will help you make some good money. And you were mentioning the bank, and we're talking about a couple of examples. Maybe tomorrow she will go, if time allows, if you budget, I don't know, 1 hour to go on financial information is short, but it's all we have. Anyway, we go with some good example of, for example, mutual funds. BMO, mutual funds, or RBC, sometimes you may lose, but sometimes they do well. Bigger players, they do better, okay, than retail sellers. So we may go with that. And the positive side of the product, you're going to see there is a potential to do well on it. So, but most of the time, really, our goal, that's why let me finish on that. How much time we have left? 10 minutes? 10:45. Okay. And what we have in your budget, let me finish it. That I will just take 5 minutes to tell you what we're doing in the School of Business at Birmingham University. I'm the chair there. What we have, we're talking about your extra money, your net cash flow when you're budgeting. Plan to invest it. What are the products that are available to you personally, to your family, to you individually, if you're alone? And we teach a lot. I have a lot of parents coming back. We teach the kids those things. Okay? And you can invest in stocks. Okay? And what is a stock? A stock is a share of ownership. If I purchase a common stock from Tellers today, I become one of the owners of Tellers. That's what it means. Okay? And then there are different types of stocks, but we're not there. You can purchase stocks. You can purchase a bond. A bond is an IOU. So if I purchase a bond from Tellers, I become a debt and Tellers. I can purchase in mutual funds. We're going to discuss mutual fund, the future, how it is managed, what it is. Tomorrow we're going to have all of that. somebody with experience in that. Brianna is going to present that. Real estate. I don't know how you feel about that. Real estate, you may want to consider that as well. When I say I'm hesitating, I feel like giving you the pros and cons on that. But you need to be aware of the pros and cons as well. In real estate, it can be very rewarding, it can be very challenging.
Can you stay there for 1 minute?
Yes, I can.
One pro, one con, let's see, about real estate. Because I'm sitting here, I'm doing this, and Sharon said this.
Who is doing this?
I'm doing this.
Oh, you are doing this?
Says,
no. Okay, I would like to hear from the person who is doing this. Who is?
Well, you know what? My life is probably totally different than anybody here because I am a senior. You're all much younger than I am. And I'm not saying we have to be careful, but I have some concerns about my own personal thing. But anyway.
So, what is your experience with it?
You know, if you have some money to buy property and maybe rent, if you get good renters, I think it's a good long-term investment. But
You say if you have good renters, and all the story is
yes,
there.
that's
If you're renting, all the story is there. There are people who are discouraged in real estate because they don't have good tenants.
yeah.
And tenants can discourage you really big time in there. And you need to be careful about that as well. The way they live in the property, they can degrade it, they don't care,
Yeah.
kind of thing like that. And there are some bad experiences. I know people with bad experiences, but I know people with very good experiences in there as well. It can work. Yeah. Okay. And then you may want in your budget to anticipate your liabilities. There are two types of liabilities. There are liabilities that are short term, and there are liabilities that are long term. Liabilities, personal debt that would be paid near in the future. You want to anticipate that. I don't have to tell you, credit card can be useful. It can be very dangerous as well. Do you know at some point, Immigration Canada issued a warning to newcomers about credit card? When you are a newcomer, they send you, we're going to help you build a credit, you build something, and people believe that is free money, and you start spending it. Okay. Before you realize that you are in the hole. Okay. So be careful. Long-term liabilities, the debt, like real estate, the mortgage debt that would be paid over a period longer than a year. Your student loan, how to manage it, your goal, and you should distribute it. For some people, maybe to pay your student loan. And some people pay their student loan very fast, okay? No? Car loan, mortgage, housing, and etc. You need to anticipate all that in your budget. Yes.
I have a quick question for you, because this is bugging me for the longest time.
Okay.
So in regards to car loans, like our two vehicles are already paid for, but they're getting older. So at least twice during the year, we have to put money into them. You know, so at what point do you determine it's better for me to get a newer vehicle instead of me putting more money into this car? Like, I don't want to be having monthly payments. And I find that just fixing it up with putting money twice a year is still less than what I would be paying if I was to pay for a car loan. But when is it wise to just, you know what, let's just maybe get some money.
That I'm the wrong person, because for me, for example, when I see I'm starting making 2,000, 3,000 expenses on a vehicle, I don't keep it anymore. I would fix it and sell it.
Okay.
Yes.
A question, not related, but related. So there's two types of car loans. You can finance and you can lease. So
Okay.
from the financial perspective, what would be the better option?
I have one of my students who is my financial manager back in Toronto now, in Toronto. And then one day he called me and said, Dr. Michel, I cannot understand that you purchase a car and you don't lease it. For him, leasing is the way to go. And for me, buying is the way to go.
Leasing is good if you like to own newer cars. That's the secret.
We also were told that because of where we live, leasing was a poor choice because we will mile it out before the lease is ready to be renewed. So then unless we buy it, when we return it, we will end up owing money. So you also want to balance that out.
It's very personal.
It depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't forget that a car, for example, whatever it's a truck or not, it's a consumption good. When you buy it, it's a consumption decision. However, if you buy it for your farm or you buy it for any other, it's an investment.
Because you can rent it for pay.
Yeah, you can amortize it and you can have tax benefit for it because the law allows you to do that. If you can register it as part of your business, so just don't worry, and it's part of your cost of operating your business, so it's easier to manage at that point. Yeah. Okay, a couple of things to finish. You see this behind me. I introduced that yesterday. At Birmingham University, we created my team, and I'm presenting the team with me today. Almara is.
Yes, somebody changed it.
Almara is behind the scene getting everything done, and I want to thank Almara. Thank you so much for everything. She's really getting everything done. And I have Danae, who is our accounting guru in the School of Business, and she's young, but she's good. Excellent. And Brianne, graduating, she's a professional. She introduced herself yesterday. She will be doing that this afternoon as well. And she's teaching for us as well. And Dr. Donkor is my boss. If I didn't, by the way, you have to tell him I did an excellent job. It will decrease my pay. and I'm part of the team. We're not here, cannot be here. So what we do is we create that small business center to help people with ideas, good ideas, who want to create a business. We help transforming those ideas into a good business plan and business plan into business we can operate. We teach our kids those things. And we develop as well courses, continuing education courses over the summer. And actually we're one step ahead of the government. Actually, the government is encouraging that as a way to spread literacy, financial, among other things. And we have just submitted an application to have what is called micro-credentials, where we can deliver certificates that are recognized by the industry, where students would have a step ahead of the market get ready. And quickly, by government estimates, we're going to be in a labor shortage very quickly. Yeah, we need to start training young people, and we're in that game very much. And telling you that we are at par with the only thing, we are a Christian institution, and we're small, but we're delivering value to students in a Christian setting. And I have witnesses here. Okay, please.
Sorry, I just question.
Yes.
There's a lot of reports, and all the reports we hear from financial institutions are lagging reports. The question is a recession. The recession impacts investments, impacts everything, right? Whenever we look at the reports, they're lagging. Most people saying we're already in recession is just that our financial institutions' reports are so far behind. Part of the example being Bank of Canada raising rate for a full point, which hasn't happened in 20 years almost, and they're planning on doing it again in September. So we were talking about investments and predictions and so forth. So when you see this, how would you accommodate? How would you say that because it's lagging, we are lagging then in our actions, and therefore we're not prepared for it? On top of that, labor shortage comes in, and a lot of companies are going to be not so rosy in their reports. I'm just trying to understand from your perspective, when you look at the stocks, bonds, and so forth, how would you prepare for something like that?
That's an excellent macroeconomic question. That there is a lot to it. But don't forget that Canada's economy is a resource economy. It's widely based on resources, and it's very small. For example, Canada's economy is smaller than the California economy. We're a very small economy, but we're widely based on resources. And resources, everybody's ended on that. Look at what is happening in Alberta now because of the conditions in the oil markets. And some people are going deeper into recession, but because of we're based on resources, we're not going so deeply and so fast. That's the thing.
Sustain energy section.
That's right. Energy is sustaining up. If the energy market is supporting the economy, Alberta is doing well because if you look at the budget update released by the Minister of Finance, Provincial Minister of Finance, we're getting a lot of money we didn't expect. And we had a budget, but we didn't anticipate that. There were unfortunate circumstances, and therefore they are making a lot. They are benefiting a lot from this situation. From an individual point of view, for example, I'm summarizing. Watch to it, but summarizing quickly. From an individual point of view, whenever there is a recession or the market is heading toward a crash, you need to be on the lookout. If we have the information, look out for what? Because you said it before. There are some companies, when you're in a recession, they start doing well. Quick example. People are losing their job a lot. They have less money. They are receiving few money. Where do you think they shop? At Costco, Walmart, or dollar store? Dollar store. So which means that at time of recession, the stores, a family dollar store should, well, Walmart should be doing well. Big store, expensive store should go down. So when you have this kind of information, we're going to look out. The recession doesn't mean that we stop investing. We're more careful about kind of financial companies we invest in.
But that was my first part of the question is the government is saying, no, we're good. We're not going into recession, everything is good. But you can tell, even the US is already, what they were saying, at about 12%. And they're saying that they're pretty much in recession. They're just not admitting to it.
Yeah.
So this is where the information for regular people, deciphering that, it's already too late, right?
Yeah, and that is the importance. That's what I said. Your question is so deep. That's why Canada cannot have the same foreign policy as the US. Even if we're friends, we're together, most two intertwined economies in the world. Nonetheless, we need to have different foreign policy because of different interests. And we're widely energy-based, then therefore that should dictate what we do. And the US, they have a lot of energy, but they are so big, energy alone cannot support them because they're a huge manufacturing economy. So there are things they are doing we cannot do, we should not be doing, so we cannot follow them. So when we have politicians making this statement, part of it is true, part of it may not be so true.
Okay, time for the draw.
Okay, thank you so much for your attention and partner with us at School of Business. And you want me to close my eyes and pick the winners?
Take your glasses off.
Okay. Oops. Last name is that a Y-O-E-R-G or?
Yeah, is it Y-O-E-R-G?
York? Is that right?
Oh,
okay.
this is...
I'm trying to read handwriting, sorry about that.
What are you wanting?
And another one down here is Marilyn.
Marilyn, your name was called again.
You know what? Let somebody else have it.
Marilyn? Okay, cool. Wow.
That's very nice. I never would have
I see Zoran.
Yeah.
Okay. So in your churches, in your organization, if you want us to come and discuss those further, the summaries we're giving you, the Small Business Center is open to that as well. Okay? In your communities, your particular communities. Oh, maybe one more.
One more.
I see Maria. Jovanovic? Okay. Jovanovic is
Former Yugoslavian of Croatia.
oh, okay, good. It's what I was doing. Yeah.
And if you didn't get a lanyard or a keychain yesterday, you're welcome there.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your attention, and we're going to be here this afternoon and tomorrow to discuss mutual funds. Thank you. Thank you.